Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. I had to make sure I could hear you guys.
All right.
Well, welcome to Radio Odds, gentlemen. Let you introduce yourselves, and we'll go from there.
My name is Jeremy Riley. I'm a lead vocal and guitar for End of Eye.
I'm Noah Riley, and I'm the drummer.
I'm Gabriel Riley, and I'm the other guitarist for End of Eye.
All right, gentlemen. I see. Glad y'all could make it this evening.
Of course. Thanks for having us, man.
No problem. I mean, like I've said in the messages to Jeremy, that this is just a DIY, have fun as a conversation. We'll discuss your new music as well, but this is for people to get to know who you are, because there's not magazines anymore to tell the world who you are.
Right.
There is, but it's slim and pickings on that end. I mean, HM's still running around, if you know what that is, or heavy metal.
Yeah, things have definitely changed, man.
So, give us an I don't know whoever wants to talk. It's an open forum. Give us a brief background story of End of Eye.
Well, I'm trying to figure out an easy way to give it to you so it doesn't take too long. But
if it takes long, it takes long to me. But that's up to you.
Well,
we can talk all night, but
the way that it started actually started with me getting involved in worship. I walked away from my secular band in 2010, and at that time, I mean, Noah was only three and a half, maybe 4 years old, and Gabe here wasn't even born yet. And to make a long story short, God gave me the name, and I knew I was going to use it for a band, but at that point I didn't have a band. I was just doing worship. So to make a long story short, what ended up happening is as I got more involved in worship, and at that point I was just playing guitar, but God just kept opening up doors for me to play with. Started with one worship leader, was playing guitar for him at the local church, and then more opportunities came. There was other worship leaders in the area that were doing other things, and I got invited to join them. And then one thing led to another, and then God opened the door for me to actually become a worship leader. And I fought it because I had no desire to get behind a microphone or sing or anything, and I had never done any of that. But God definitely made it clear. I have a lot of testimony of how he was speaking to me through people trying to get me to step into this thing. And I had my mind made up that I wasn't going to do it. And but then I had somebody come to me and speak a word to me about not running from it. And it was in that moment I knew God was saying, you need to do it. So once I stepped into the worship leader role, that's when it all unfolded. Because now I'm singing, I'm leading worship. Then within a year or so, God started giving me worship songs. And as he was giving me worship songs, then I ended up being introduced to more people that were connected to Nashville, that heard some of the music I was writing. And before you know it, they were taking me down there, introducing me to producers at a real huge studio, the Castle. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but
the name sounds familiar. But
yeah, there's several studios down there, but I got hooked up with some people down there, and then recording started. And now, as this is happening, Gabe was born, Noah's getting older. We knew from the beginning he was a drummer. He had drumstick. Well, he started with wooden spoons, and he was using the lampshade as a ride cymbal, and then he always had like this. We could tell that he had like natural timing, just the way that he would air drum to music. And then we got him a kit. So while all this is happening to me, Noah steps into his gift And by the time he's 11, we had an opportunity to go to Honduras and do worship in some villages and in some government ran schools down there. And nobody could play drums that was part of my current team. So we're like, well, okay, well, why don't we just bring Noah? And sure enough, his fare was covered like within the first week. And then we went down as a 3-piece, me, him, and my bass player. And we did worship, and it was just incredible, man. And I knew then once we came back from that experience, Noah was the drummer. So that was when me and him really connected, like musically, and I knew something was going to come out of it. And then it just unfolded from there. We started doing worship together at church. And then before you know it, we were doing outreach. And some of the other members came and went, but we were progressively getting heavier. Like it was just like a natural thing. I came from a heavier background to begin with. The band that I was in before I came to the Lord, we were playing like Breaking Benjamin, Red, that kind of stuff, modern rock music.
Like I described to y'all in the description a couple days ago, modern rock with a progressive lean.
Yeah, yep. And it's, that's always been there. So even though I got involved in worship, that never left me. It just, there really wasn't a place to exercise it. But as me and him started to play together, it started to come out. And I mean, there's been so many changes, ups and downs. But then when God spoke to my wife and I, and we knew it was time for me to step down from doing worship so I could actually step out beyond the 4 walls of the church. Once that happened, that was about 2.5 years ago. Then more opportunities to play out presented itself. And then that's when we ended up meeting Aaron Michaels from Resurrection Records. And then we ended up signing with them. And then doors just started opening. Now, I mean, this past spring and summer, I think I just did like the taxes on everything. We drove like over 4,000 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think 2 years ago, we were leading worship just on Sundays at our church, not stepping outside really of our area. And then I'm looking at it on paper. We played over a dozen shows. We drove that many miles and we just connected with so many people. And then now we're writing music that we absolutely love. And in the midst of all that, our other guitar player had to step down, and Gabe was already starting to play. He's had a guitar and an amp in his room since he was about 9. And I think, what was it, summer 2024, this was our first real gig, like stepping out. And it was Kingdom Come Festival. And the rhythm guitar player I had at the time couldn't do it. So that ended up Gabe stepping in. And so Gabe's first gig with the band was KCF.
Love me some KCF. I'm going to try to get up there this summer.
Oh yeah. It's just an incredible experience, but it was awesome because for him at the time, I mean, you were what, 13?
Yeah.
Almost 14. He's 13 years old, has like zero experience playing live on any type of a stage. And then he got to step in with us for the first time, us really stepping out on the stage like that, with other Christian rock bands.
Right.
It was just awesome, man. So like, it was incremental how this all kind of came together. But looking back, I realized now, God, that this was God's plan.
Yeah, I was going to say God's timing for it all to fall into place.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, I have to remind myself because there's so many times where I want to make things happen and and we all do it. We get creative, we get ideas. Oh, we could be doing this or we can do this. And not that God doesn't want us to do those things, but if we want it to be effective, there's a time and a place, and we got to be willing to kind of like pull back the reins a little bit,
I can completely 100% with that. I've did I jokingly tell people Radio Oz began in 1987
Wow.
with making mixtapes in the 80s.
Was it really? That's awesome, man.
My basic story is I would take Christian and secular music and mix them together,
Okay.
and it's music to people. It's not. There's no religion per se there that people see until they
Right.
did, and that was that was the way I shared my faith,
Oh, that's awesome, man.
and then helped with radio shows through the years and all kind and backstage, and I do backstage stuff work and merch work for whoever came to Louisville. So I was always in the scene for a good portion of my life. Well, then, of course, life happens. Divorces unfortunately happen,
Yeah,
and then 5 kids along the way, and
I understand.
trying to live life. You know, you have to. That became the priorities for raising the children, raising the kids. So
Yep.
I get it, and you don't, and you feel like, is it ever going? Is it coming back? And it started coming back with me almost 10 years ago in this aspect, the media world, social media world,
Okay.
and it's grown. And then I've got reconnected to. It's weird when I go to a show and I'm the parent figure looking person, or almost a grandparent for some of these people, because I'm 53 years old and I've got grandkids that are teenagers, your kids' age. So, but I go to these shows and meet everybody. So it's kind of weird. You don't want to feel like that weird person, the older person there.
I understand.
So trying to connect with bands like yourself and Undefeated or somebody that's a lot younger.
Yeah.
You don't, like I said, don't want to make them feel creepy. Be creepy about it.
No,
So
it's
going to KCF a few years ago, I connected with a lot of people. Going to Ictus, where I met you gentlemen,
awesome.
made that connection. It's got me back in the scene, you know. And I've got bands and fans. I've got, for Radio Oz, there is 5,000 plus fans just for Radio Oz across the globe, and that's
Wow.
including every continent but Antarctica. And my kids joke, my daughter's jokes like, why don't you just get a tracking penguin and track it back to your page?
Right.
So, but anyway, so that's a little brief version of my story. So that's but my focus is with this is, like I said, to be the visual magazine, get
I
people
see.
exposure. I make playlists. I share, like I did, share your live video that I've taken.
It's awesome, man.
I mean, my YouTube channel's got over 150,000 views. Got almost just 3 shy of 500. 3 shy of 500 followers.
Wow.
So,
That's awesome, man.
but I mean, this is what I'm doing at 53 years old. I'm enjoying life now, being able to not worry about my kids because they're all adults. I mean, I still worry because I got a son that's 30. He's got to have a heart transplant. That's a whole different story. So, but anyways, back to the band. Going back to the 4,000 miles y'all traveled last year, I remember, if I remember correctly, you lost an RV in the middle of all that.
Yeah. So we pretty much, the way the RV came about, that's become like the blessing, man, because and it's kind of God's way of saying this is going to be a family thing, because we could get the small car and get the small trailer and just the 4 of us jump in it and take off, but like the most profound things that we've been able to do as far as traveling in the RV was the whole family, my daughter, my wife. My wife runs the merch. um we prayed and asked God for a vehicle that could pull the trailer, and that's what was presented to us. And it was just crazy how it was presented to us, because the day that I prayed for it, somebody happened to tag me in a post where somebody was selling that RV. And the only person that knew that I was praying about it was me and God. And later that day, when I was tagged in that post, I took it as a sign and hit the guy up that was selling it, and he instantly responded, and he gave me such a low price I could not say no to it. So to make a long story short, we went through going to look at it, and the price was so low, and it was perfect. We were able to purchase it, And my wife's idea was like, well, let's just remodel it, so that way it'll work for us. I was able to tear that thing apart in record time. I was able to raise money to put bunk beds in it. Um, and the thing's only got like 17,000 miles on it. So like, it's almost brand new, but it's an older model. It was very well taken care of, and it was um, basically stored for years. So it was just waiting for us, man.
But yeah, like I said, I remember that vividly. You bringing that up, that story online, and I was like, that's a God move. You know, you can't say it's not. I don't know how people,
No,
I mean, that might seem mundane to a lot of people
yeah,
'cause they don't understand that.
no, and I'll tell you, and this is for real, Mike. I mean, one thing that I'm learning with God is like, we're all gonna grow and continue to grow with Him until we die. But the thing that I'm learning in this season is I see Him more in the little things than I do the big things. And when we did get that RV and I started to tear the thing apart, there was parts of me going, man, should I be doing this? I was just, because we're human, we tend to, we'll have moments of doubt and we question things. And I remember tearing out the bathroom and the shower part. Not, we just knew that we wanted to put bunk beds in that spot. But I've never done any type of work like this. So here I am tearing it out. There's no way I could ever put it back in because I'm destroying it. And then I finally get it down to the bare space. And I'm like, okay, it looks like a mattress might fit there. So I measured it. And then after I measured it, I went online and Googled what is the average mattress for like a tour bus bunk bed. And it was to a T within like a half an inch.
Man.
So I was like, what? So I knew, I was like, all right. I went on Amazon. They were right there. I'm like, okay, I can frame this thing out and throw a mattress right here. It's little things. Like it's just time after time after time after time as we step out and we trust, man, when things don't always make sense, he just reveals himself through the whole process, man. And then once we got the whole thing together and now that we've been able to take it, we've had some amazing trips in that thing, and Ichthus was one of them, man.
Yeah.
And it seems like whenever we had an issue, like when we had issues with the tires, we made it all the way back home. The tires were hit. Um, we put out the word to raise money to get new ones. Within 12 hours, we had all the money, man. Like when it comes to that RV, and we've ever needed help or needed it to be at a certain spot or whatever, anytime we put the word out, boom, it was taken care of like instantly, man.
Yeah. So it says you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And people have faith in you and your ministry.
It's praise God, man.
All right. Well, let's. Next question I have is: we were talking about you're coming out of a secular background in music, and the boys can answer this too. Influences. If you like we've talked about before, and I was talking about in my post, you're going with the modern rock edge with that progressive leaning, but you say you come out of a praise and worship background doing music with that, which is totally two. It can be the same, but it's also totally two different styles because people believe what praise and worship has to be calm, cool, and collected, basically.
Right. I know. It's a dilemma, man. I can tell you, I was never into worship music at all until I walked away from my band. And then once I stepped into church around 2010 and got exposed to like Jesus culture, Hillsong, that real ambient, real powerful ambient sound, that part spoke to me. But the heavy stuff has always been in me. So I can tell you with my experience of going through, leading worship and being on worship teams, playing guitar for different worship leaders and on different worship teams, you mix that with all my secular influences, that's what Endavai is. I mean, there's an ambient undertone in our music and you can hear it. There's always a pad, there's always some kind of a string. You can hear it even in the new song and like when the chorus finally kicks in, there's there's layers that are added, and all of that came from worship, my experience in worship. But the heaviness and the odd times and all that, and I'll let these guys speak for themselves, like with what musical influences like secular that really speak to them. But I can tell you for I would say at least the top three for me that were secular was bands like Breaking Benjamin, Chevelle, Deftones, Tool, Perfect Circle, um,
Well,
and even
there's a progressive right there. There's a
yeah,
progressive right there.
Danny Carey, the drummer for Tool. Those type of timings. When I was in a secular band, we played a lot of Tool, so that's something that came kind of natural to me over time. So like when you hear the instrumental that we played live, you can definitely hear. We've done Christian concerts, and we've had other bands come up to us and go, "I hear Tool in that, man." So like we're not the only ones. So,
Right.
but yeah, that's
That's what I'm
probably
saying. That's where I get the progressive feel from. So I can see Tool, Perfect Circle, and all these bands that are modern progressive. You know,
exactly.
they're not. I mean, like, nothing against uh, going on with, like I said, you go back and look at Dream Theater back from the early '90s. King's
Yeah.
X. Do you know who King's X is?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it's a three-piece band that will boggle your mind if you're listening to them. Same thing with Rush. You know, going back to Rush from the '70s and '80s. You know,
Absolutely, man. I think like those bands you just listed were like the influences of bands like Tool. I think Neil Peart was probably an influence on Danny Carey. Like you can
for
tell,
sure, for sure,
you
I
know.
would see that. I can see that.
But yeah, I would say um, as far as modern influences are concerned, more modern prog rock. It's them, and Carnival's another one out of Australia. I was turned on to them just before I left my secular band, and if you like Tool, you like that kind of music, that kind of feel, Carnival with a K, I would check them out because
I think I've seen it in some posts somewhere. Because I mean,
you
I've
probably
got.
have.
I mean, I've got on my personal Facebook page. I've got Christian artists, secular artists, and they all. And I mean, I've got a good mix on that. That you'll see posts, and it's like, okay, I want to go check this out.
That's
You know,
awesome.
so I mean, you go look at the followers on Radio Oz. It blows my mind. You know, who is following me? I'm a nobody. I'm like,
Oh,
who? What? You know, I mean, I've got, just give you a couple examples. I've got Tim Ripper Owens that sung for Judas Priest following my
are you
TikTok.
serious?
Yeah,
Dude, that's amazing.
Michael Sweet from Stripers following me on Instagram.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, that's two big names that vocally that just blow my mind. But like I said, to be those, and then you go into the Radio Oz Facebook page, you've got the original lead singer for Anthrax, original lead singer
Wow.
for Terry Glaze from Pantera, the original lead singer for Pantera before Phil Anselmo. You got the guys from
Wow.
Kansas. You've got the Kentucky Headhunters. You know, and so it's like, what?
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, it is. Like I said, and I go to shows and then I'll go to a show because of all the stuff I post. Are you Metal Mike? I'm like, who are you? I don't have no clue who you are. And that's goes back to me tagging like this post, the post I've been tagging you guys with. If I can tag you, Gabriel, the band, the Resurrection Records, that just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies people that see my posts.
Right.
You're
That's true.
resharing my stuff. People are seeing that. And
That's
it's,
awesome.
but that's people come back to me. It's like, well, that's your ministry then. You're sharing your ministry. Well, ministry to me is a big, big, powerful word, especially with what I'm trying to accomplish. I can't go out and say, hey, I can't tell the secular world that I can tell the world online that I'm a Christian and what I'm trying to get across, and they understand it. But if I try to explain that to a secular artist, they're like, huh? But I'm not a Christian. Well, just bear with me. Let me share your music. I'm not saying I'm doing you wrong because your music's getting out to these 5,000 of my followers, plus your 10,000 or whatever, if you got that many. So it compounds and compounds and compounds. So
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, and you're also, I think if you're ever going to have a chance to win anybody to Jesus, man, that's not a believer in the music world, secular music, it's going to start with a genuine just love, respect, and relationship.
yep, I mean that's what I've done is showed the respect, and it goes back to what I was saying about once people the younger artists that are teenagers, early 20s, fans that are just getting started and trying to get that following, and they understand what I'm actually working towards, they don't feel as creeped out. Going back to the creep part, because well, we've got somebody
That's
that
awesome.
we've got somebody in our scene. I'm not going to mention names. He's a friend I've had for 20 plus years, but he's been called out as being a little bit creepy, and
Okay,
so I don't want to be categories like that. But I mean, unfortunately,
right.
you know, I
I
love my
totally get
friend,
it, dude.
but you can't be doing that.
But I mean, these guys got, you know, we got some of these, we share some of the same influences, but they also listen to different stuff too. I mean, go ahead,
so, so guys, your dad spoke here. Let's hear some of your own stuff.
man.
I mean, y'all
Get
can't
that
be
out,
quiet the whole time. Y'all can't
Yeah.
sit there and go, yeah, that, that.
Yeah, no, I say we all share pretty much like the same influences as far as metal rock. You know, like we all love Tool, Deftones. We all kind of fell into that as we pushed more into our craft. And but even then, like I still listen to some even different stuff. I'll go off and listen to like jazz music
Yeah.
and really mainly just pay attention to drum timings and kind of listen like that, and even listening to rappers like Mac Miller, Logic, J. Cole, just a lot of these other rappers that actually have some wisdom to say,
Yeah.
and get,
And they're not mumbling.
yeah, some of it's cool, but like not all the time.
I think the guys you listen to tend to be a little bit more prolific, like lyrically.
Yeah, that's
Like Mac Miller and them guys, they have like a real, like a genuine message, and it's real. It comes
right.
off. That's the thing. I think it's authentic.
And I'll even listen to like different rap that's like Lil Peep or Juice World, and even some of those rappers too. Those are some of my
Even NF.
yeah, NF too. NF's amazing.
So
NF's
next song's got new metal in it, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And it could. We
Hey,
talked
you want to see
about
me
it, man.
complain? You know, I mean, you see me post a couple days ago. POD been one of my favorites since the beginning. I mean, I freaked out. The first time I ever met those guys, it was in 2000, and I've got the original pressings of all their independent albums. And they're like,
That's awesome,
where'd you get these at? I've been a fan since the beginning because this was 2000 was when they were just getting right before Satellite hit
yeah.
with Youth of the Nation, and they're like, they didn't think. I mean, somebody out in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, would have their albums, but I did.
Oh man, that's awesome. That it's powerful stuff too. Like, and we've discussed it. Um, we we definitely. I mean, we're writing so much new music right now, and so much of it as elements that fall into that category. Um, as far as like having somebody that can rap, where we could do like a legit new metal song. Um, I'm more of a singer screamer, so like we're not opposed to doing a feature with somebody that can rap. We
You got some on your label.
yes, we do, and
There's some great guys there. Great couple guys. I know some of the guys there, and they're all great guys. The ones I've met, and nothing against the other guys I've met. B Wade a few times. We've talked a bunch of times. He's came to the Louisville area. Big Rebs came to Louisville. We've talked a few times.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna
Um,
be playing with Big Rev here soon. So we're discussing it right now, and we may be reaching out as soon as we're ready to do it. But that's funny you brought it up because it's definitely on our radar, man.
awesome, awesome. Real quick, I'll catch up with a couple people online here. We've got Johnny Flores saying greetings, everyone.
Johnny, tell
We've
us
got, yeah,
what up, dude.
and then you got Jeremy from Rock for Him says, "What's up?"
What
Says,
up?
and then Jason Katz from Quake Radio says hello.
All right.
So support from other podcasters. That always feels good too.
That's
So
awesome, dude.
so that's what I'm saying. We all work together to get the common good out by sharing
That's
guys
awesome.
like yourselves and all the. I mean, like I said, radio is not like it used to be. Magazines are not like they're not there. So we're all having to work together to get music out there some way somehow.
Absolutely, because especially with the way that it works, when like the big labels and kind of dominate everything, for the rest of us to sort of get a voice, it takes a community. I'm seeing that, of people
That
coming
it takes
together.
community and money.
Dude, you ain't lying, bro.
I mean, like I said, I've got friends on both sides of the circle of both Christian and secular, and it's anymore. It's just as hard both sides. It used to be hard enough for Christian artists to be promoted or be where they need to be. It's since everybody can go in their garage and record an album now, I think, or use AI to create
Right,
something.
exactly.
Because I mean, I had a guy a few months ago send me a track. He said, "Take a listen to this and let me know what you think." Listen to it. He did all the music and all the work there, but then the vocals were all AI, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, what?
And you
How?
can tell.
You can tell it, but at the same time, it's like still the where we've gotten with that. It's completely. I mean, first everybody was complaining about auto tune.
Yeah,
Everybody complained about that forever for the last probably decade.
yeah.
Well, now we all got to worry about AI vocals, AI instruments, AI everything.
Yeah.
They say you type. I mean, you can type in something. That's what he did. He typed in what he wants said and what he wants sung, and it created the voice. And I'm like, that just blows my mind. I mean,
Yeah. It's
this is stuff we've seen in sci-fi movies years ago. So going back, let's get back to what we were talking about. Like I said, I could talk all night. I'm a talker.
Hey, it's all right. I think Gaby was gonna talk about his
Yeah.
influences.
So I'm going to go back to here.
Because he's the youngest one. I mean, he's 15, so like, yeah, he's got his own group.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all searched and found that's where I found metal was when I was in my teens. So
Yeah. I mean, my biggest inspirations have stayed in new metal, like Chevelle, Red, Carnival, Tool, and my biggest one being Deftones. And then on some of the stuff that is kind of like other stuff I listen to, I love to listen to a lot of shoegaze. Like my favorite artist being like Scarlet House, who I've been a fan of since he like was just starting. And then there's I listen to like a lot of slowcore stuff like Duster and a lot of indie stuff like Vacations and a band like Yacht Club and stuff. And I just like to take influences from all of them and just
that's a good little variety right there.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you talking about shoegaze. I mean, there's an underground Christian bands that have been around doing that for decades, and but people are like, "Huh?" You'd be surprised. Go back if you want to go back and look up, get some good Christian versions of that. Look up a group called The Choir. They've been around probably 45 years at this point, almost.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, then a lot of stuff. That stuff they classify their stuff shoegaze and stuff. But in their lyrics, and you can listen to their lyrics, and it'd be going back to praise and worship. Some of their stuff, it's got a praise and worship feel to it.
I was gonna say because shoegaze if you look at like, and I'll use like Jesus Culture and like Hillsong and you know, like in 2010, that era coming up, a lot of the guitar work to me was very shoegaze.
Yeah.
You know, the very ambient. I mean, it's not as crazy out there, like creatively. It's pretty straightforward, like right with the chord progressions and stuff. But um, there's definitely that ambient wide sound.
I mean, like I say, going through the decades with Christian music, I've seen and heard. Oh, almost. I mean, there was a version of almost every. At one point, there was a band for every station or counterpart.
Yeah,
And I mean, and at a point, it became cookie cutters.
right.
You know, I mean, and we're still in that situation, even though people don't want to admit it. But that's what it goes. That's what influences are for. But at the same time, I think, my personal opinion, you need to be a little bit more unique to be able to, especially in today's time, to grab somebody's attention. No matter what side of the coin you're on,
Absolutely.
to get somewhere with music, I mean, the old saying is with pop music, it's got to be something that's catchy. It's got to be 3 minutes long.
Right.
And now we got the attention spans. It's even less than that. But so for you to go progressive like you guys are doing, you've got to be ready to compete and grab that person's ear within the first, say, minute and a half, or you've lost them.
Right. Right. No, you're actually you're hitting the nail on the head. These are, and it's actually confirming to us because the three of us have these conversations quite a bit because um, one thing that we've noticed, and this isn't what I'm about to say isn't geared towards any one particular band, but I'm thinking more generally speaking. There's a lot of music that sounds really good right now, but there's a lot of music that sounds very similar. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had this conversation about, not allowing ourselves to be influenced by all of these musical trends that a lot of people are trying to copy, and they are copying each other. There's no doubt about it. Um, but not getting caught up in falling into that trap of doing the same thing and really not in being at a place where we're not afraid to write and play the stuff that really moves us, even if it might not be, in those categories. The progressive rock thing is one of those things. It comes out of us naturally, and we can do way more of it than what we're doing. Um, but we also know that there's a part of it that's unique, and we want to capitalize on that. But at the same time, be able to incorporate other genres or other parts of other genres into our music, um, and mix it together in a way that would be more unique and not sound like what everyone else is doing.
Right. And I'm right there with you. And that's the thing. There's a band that's there. They start with an S, and I won't mention the name, but they've released album after album after album, and at this point, to me, they sound the same, every one of them, and everybody loves them. But they're going back to that 3 minute hook,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that to me, I mean, it's great to have. It goes back to radio hit after radio hit after radio hit because it's radio. We never when we were growing up. When I was growing up, coming out of the '70s, you had Stairway to Heaven. You had Rush 2112. You had songs that were 8 minutes, 12 minutes, still on the radio.
Yeah.
So we got used to that, and that was something classic rock growing up. Then you came into the '80s with new wave, and that really filtered it back to pop, like the '60s.
Yeah.
And then you came into the '90s, and grunge hit, and alternative took over the radio. So you had a little bit more 5 minute songs.
Right.
And then now we don't even have radio. So
No, and you're right though. But like if we're honest about every decade where a new style or new genre emerged, what made it good? And if we go, let's go to new metal, let's say post grunge, late 90s, early 2000s, you had, I mean, if you say, let's say the top five bands, you had Korn, you had Limp Bizkit, you had Rage Against the Machine, um, Breaking Benjamin was coming out of that,
Chevelle,
Chevelle,
yeah,
System of a Down.
down. Which I'm
Now,
still. That's one big out of all those. System of a Down. I'm one I'm not gotten too far into yet. The others, yeah, I'll listen to them all day long.
and what's crazy about it is none of them bands sounded the same.
No,
They were very unique in their own right, but yet they were all under the same genre. See, we're not seeing that now. What we're seeing is all the bands that fall under the modern rock genre or whatever you want to say, they all sound similar to me. Like, I don't know, it's just looking back, it's like those bands were one-offs. Everyone was unique, everyone was doing their own thing, and it was cool, and everyone was cool with each other. Where now it feels like everyone's just trying to compete.
yeah, and that goes back to what the band S. It was starts with an S. Everybody,
Yeah.
some of the Christian artists are that's their goal is to be the next S, and you're not going to get there by sounding like them.
That's true. That's straight up truth, man.
You know, and I like some of their songs. Don't get me wrong. It's just after a long while, I just got bored.
No, and you're right, and it's the difference. But I think what's going to change it is people are artists and musicians and bands are going to have to not be afraid to really press into what they really want to do instead of allowing themselves to be influenced by the industry.
Yeah.
And that's tough because you want to be able to play shows, you want opportunities, and I get all that. So I'm not discrediting anybody who's going that way because I understand why a lot of people are doing it. But at some point, enough's got to be enough, and we just got to be willing to do what we love and let the chips fall where they fall. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right, and that's one thing I loved when we went to Icarus last year with them. They had a good variety, you know,
Yeah.
but they had you guys. You had 13 minutes. You had Set the Fall. You had Hush Harbor, which is a contemporary rock. You had a Southern Gospel that closed out one night, or
Yeah,
Southern
that
or
was
Country
awesome.
Gospel, or whatever, however you want to call them. But so they had a variety for everybody. But
Yeah,
but
that's great.
yeah, it's great, and I love that aspect because more people hear they learn more variety. That goes back they get away from that cookie cutter a little bit more.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's what I miss about. I mean, KCF is great, but it's all hard rock, metal, punk, rap artists here. I mean, they have a good variety for the young people, but that's the only place they're going to hear that, unfortunately. Without and it brings me down because it's like I want this. I'd love to see tours like this. You know, you guys are getting ready to do the Resurrection Fests coming up, which are great. You know, and Aaron has signed a bunch of variety. You know, from rock, from contemporary, all to rap to rock to metal, so on, which is great, and I love that aspect because back in the '90s, and even in the early 2000s, you had package deal tours. Well, now it's not feasible to do that
Right,
because there is no record label paying the band to be on the road,
right.
not and paying you to record and yada yada yada. It's a completely barren wasteland, unfortunately, because I mean, you know how, like you said, you went 4,000 miles, but that was what 4 months.
Yeah, I think it. Well, for us, I think we played our first gig in March, like at the end of March, and then we played our last gig
So
in
6 months.
November.
So 6 months. Say
Yeah,
six
so
months.
it's stretched out, but the majority of the shows were played within a 3-month period. and then everything else was kind of, scattered after that. But yeah, it's crazy, man.
Because like I said, you don't see. I mean, you got Winter Jam, and you got some of the other tours like that are here or there, but I mean, it's like Disciples playing Winter Jam this year, and they're playing what 20 minutes for a band that's been around 30 years.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
It boggles my mind. I mean, I've been a Disciple band fan since the beginning.
Yeah.
I said how old I said how old I am when I say I've been a fan since before they knew anybody. Same thing with Toby Mac. I've known Toby since what 1990.
Yeah.
I've been a fan since like '89. But every time I see him, he's like, "Don't I know you?"
Yeah.
But
Well, it's crazy because like even this would be, I mean, the summer of 2024 was when we first stepped out as like a touring rock band, and we did KCF, and then we did Immersion at the end of August. We played just like maybe 3 or 4 because we had just gotten signed with Aaron, and so that prepared us for this past summer or spring and summer, and we did a lot more. And but it was weird because some of the stuff that we were looking to do the first year we didn't end up doing the second year, so like you don't always get called back to some of these festivals, like just because you did it one year doesn't mean you're going to do it the next year. So like we're at a point now where we got an EPK and I have sent it to everybody, and we're not doing just Christian stuff. We're not targeting just Christian events. We're actually targeting secular venues as well, like
goes
rock.
back to what I was saying earlier. That's the only way. And to me, that goes back to the old saying that you're not going to reach everybody in the church, especially
You're not.
And our job is to go into the world and tell the gospel, not keep preaching it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with preaching it every Sunday morning, but
Right.
our witness is our testimony.
Oh, come on, dude. And that's where we're at. Like we love, and I said this last week on Rock for Him, we love doing the Christian stuff. We love the festivals, and any opportunity that comes our way that we're able to do, we will always say yes to that. But our heart right now is geared towards the secular crowd because I kind of came to a point after leading worship for 10 years of that same thing. Like, this is just, it's going like around the mountain to the same people over and over and over. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or that there aren't some people who are called to do that. But I feel like we're at a point now where our heart is shifted towards wanting to reach people who don't know God. Um,
Exactly.
and we've been we were blessed, man, this past summer to have 2 opportunities to play at 2 secular bars that we didn't plan on playing. They kind of just presented themselves and we just said yes. And man, it was amazing. And God confirmed some things because I was able to share my testimony like I always do, in a loving way, not coming at people trying to hit them over the head with the Bible, just sharing what God did in my life and letting the chips fall where they fall. And after we were done, people coming up to me privately, man, saying stuff like, man, I've been in recovery. I had one guy that was been in recovery for 8 months from heroin, and he said, I walked in just as you were sharing it, and I needed to hear that. It opened the door for me to be able to just, minister a little bit and be like, yeah, man, I've been there, and God's the one who got me through it, and He healed me from my addiction. And that's where we're supposed to be. Um, like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to the Christian stuff because I'm not. I love it. And I know there's a point and a purpose to do that as well because we edify the body when we do that too. But some of us have to be willing to go out beyond that and
Yep.
not just stay in that bubble. And I can tell you right now, wholeheartedly, we're a band that does not want to stay in that bubble. We want to be in that bubble, but we also want to be in this bubble, and we want to be in that bubble, and God knows we're willing to do it.
Right.
Been in some very crazy situations where we weren't sure how it was going to turn out, if we spoke up or not, and by God's grace, we've been able to do it. So like, it's full speed ahead at this point. So I got a list that's just as long as the Christian festivals that are secular venues that we're getting ready to just blast. We have an opportunity. There's a lot of places in Detroit. There's other bars now that are open. We have Machine Shop in Flint. We have the Vault in Saginaw. We have the Venue in Cadillac, Michigan, which we're in the process right now of working something out where I can't really say just yet, but we would be opening up for a secular band that a lot of people probably know if we take it, if it works out for us. But those are the kind of things we're working on right now. So we put our name in the hat for all the festivals, whether we get picked or not. That's up to God, whether we need to walk through those doors or not. But our heart right now is to get out into the world and be the light.
Well, I think we're both right. We're both right there to set. Like I said, going back to what I was saying, what my goal is. You know so we have the somewhat like the similar goals in different ways, where I share, mix it, and everything. But that's the only way. I mean, and like I think I told you briefly the story last year about the mustard seed. You know that they hear this music, but then they look into the lyrics, and then
Right.
It's the baby step
It draws
to get
them
there.
in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's what going back to music. That's the thing. Everybody loves some form of music. Like we were talking about influences early. And that's if somebody's hearing something. Hey, man, that sounds good. Who is that?
Right.
Yeah, right there, and then they come back and they see your testimony. You wrote it out. Here's the gist of what we are as a band.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a Christian band, but you sound so good.
And that's kind of funny too, because people are surprised by that. Like they didn't expect you to be gifted.
Right. And that's the thing too. Like you said, it's a fight for every band. So when somebody really goes back and it's like, hey, I need to check these guys out. Dig deeper. But that's the downside though, not to have a CD or something where you can open the booklet and like read the lyrics.
Oh man, those were the days, man.
Yeah, they were. That's like I seen your post a couple days ago about the two missionaries coming up to the door.
Yeah.
And let us speak about the band Iron Maiden.
You're right.
They're going to be at Louder Than Life this fall, and that is a bucket list. So I will be there.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Well, and I've seen talking about Breaking Benjamin. I've seen them there. It's a the world's largest. I don't know how they call it the world's largest metal festival, hard rock metal festival. But right now they've announced My Chemical Romance, Iron Maiden, and Killswitch Engage.
Oh, nice.
They announced the whole get up next week. But like I said, catching up for concerts. I've seen so many of the bands I missed because of raising kids. And everybody's like, "You're too old to be going to that show. You're only as old as your body." I've learned from a friend of mine years ago. There's a thing called, instead of the mosh pit, it's the mosh sit.
I was going to ask you if you still get into the pit, man.
I've been some of my recordings I've got up close to the pit, which is pretty cool. But awesome. I learned a lesson a few years ago. For Papa Roach was playing, and they had crowd surfers constantly going, and I thought I was far enough back. No, my head was hurting the time I was done because people were kicking me in the back of my head while I was trying to record. Yeah. And and when I record videos, I try not to be in people's way. I just am courteous. You know how you see the people like, why are you recording? Because not everybody can afford to go to these shows anymore.
Right. That's true. And it's, it's all fun and games until it isn't.
Right. And then I've got neuropathy in both my feet, so I can't stand for very long. So that.
Gotcha, man.
So that's one of the reasons I missed KCF a couple years ago, because I had that and didn't know if my body will allow it. And then plus, like I said, my son's got his heart transplant, and so priorities. But But like I said, my goal is this year to get back to KCF and mingle and everything with everybody again. And hopefully, I don't know if I haven't heard anything on Ichthus for this year yet. And hopefully his week won't mess with Louder Than Life, because I'd love, like I said, love that opportunity, because that was something I enjoyed as a teen and in my early 20s, going to these festivals, hanging out, meeting the bands. Back then, it wasn't as much as what I'm doing now, but it still was something I enjoyed. I mean, my first festival, Ichthus, was in 1985, and I kick myself to this day wishing the 12-year-old, 13-year-old me would have paid attention to who was playing, because now some of those bands are some of my earliest bands that I was starting to get into. Is when I became a Christian and was listening to Christian rock and moving in. And back then it wasn't metal until like 87. Striper wasn't, I mean, still hard rock, but I'm talking about like Vengeance Rising and stuff like that, where it was Slayer-ish. So I could use it as a counteract to the Slayer fans. We had that back in the day. And then we had bands, progressive bands, like, you ever heard Tourniquet?
Yes.
So you get what I mean? So that was that was the early 90s. We were getting into that stuff, and I could share that stuff and compare it with a King Diamond or stuff like that. I was like, and nobody could back then. Nobody could understand what I was actually doing, because even how this is. We're going back to what we were saying about churches. They don't understand the rock, metal, even the rap scene, Christian scene for that. They have a hard time with that for some reason.
Yeah.
Even though Psalms 150 tells us to praise using all the instruments known to man.
Yeah. I mean, it's and that's something I encountered as a worship leader, because I'd already been exposed to all that other music, but then getting in the church and then doing like Sunday morning service and stuff, and there's very, very strict guidelines of what you can and can't do, and it's like, and then if you step outside of that boundary, people lose it. And what it really honestly kind of taught me over time is that I think what it does reveal is, if we can't worship in an atmosphere that may be music that goes against our own personal taste, then I think there's like an immaturity problem. And it's because God wouldn't have created all of us with these different likes and these different tastes and these different expressions of our gift to cram it all into one box so we would all sound the same. He wants unity, but not uniformity.
Yeah, exactly.
That's religion. And it took me a while to figure that out, but after 10 years of leading worship in the same church with the same people and seeing the same things go round and round and round, I realized that we just need to grow. I think we need to mature to a place where we can worship no matter what people are doing, and understand that we're not all the same.
All right. Well,
we're just not all the same.
Like we were talking about earlier with the rap, if it's socially conscious and makes sense and not degrading someone, not creating a hostile environment,
right?
Same thing can be said there, and people want to they want to all lump it into one little area. One sounds bad, they all sound bad.
Right.
You're not open-minded. You're not listening to a lyric. You're not, I'm just listening to it for the music. There's a lyrical thing in there that's got your ear too. No matter what you want to say.
Right.
Most music, there's not much instrumental music like there used to be. There is still, but that's not popular.
Right.
There's a lyrical hook that's got you grabbed. No matter what you want to say, you can't tell me you're just listening to it for the music.
Right.
I've never understood that argument. You grab them by the music, and then the lyrics are secondary sometimes. But if you're a true music fan, you're going to look at lyrics too.
Yeah.
Like going back to the pop song, 3-minute pop song. There's that hook that catches you.
Right.
All right, we're actually over an hour, but we've got a few more minutes to finish up. Where you say you're all working on music constantly. Where do you see us in 26? Not touring, but musically.
What do you guys think? What do you guys want to answer that? You want me to answer it?
I think we'll have a couple more songs recorded.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh,
More songs recorded. We'll have more song
releases.
ideas.
oh yeah.
A lot more stuff still in the works. We're still coming up with stuff.
Yeah, it's what's crazy is it's like the writing process, writing new songs and new ideas has been accelerated ever since we wrote ever since the three of us started working together. It's like it's multiplied, man. So like we recorded you along with um 5 other songs, the drums for 5 other songs. So we got like 5 other songs half finished, and then we wrote 3 more since then. And we're getting ready to go set it up to record the drums for that. And then we're gonna start cracking away probably 2, 3 songs at a time. Unless we get enough money to do a whole EP and just knock it all out, we won't have a choice but to do just a couple at a time. Which it's okay. Either way, it's gonna work out. But
Well, that's most bands. Most bands are doing the single route anyways because it's cheaper.
yeah,
It's easier to get it out there because physical media to most people is dead, unfortunately.
yeah, and you're right. And what it does allow to do it that way is it puts more emphasis on the one song. So that one song gets a lot more attention, and you can really truly like just really push it to the end instead of the downfall with an EP is not everybody's going to listen to every single song that intently. They might have 1 or 2 that they really love, and the other ones are going to kind of get lost in the shuffle. But for us, because we do have instrumentals and these other things, we don't want to release that stuff as singles. Having an EP allows us to kind of mix that in with our songs. But we definitely have everything that we're writing right now falls into the same category as you. A perfect mixture of I would say alternative hard rock with some ambient undertones, but lyrically being all more focused on testimony driven. Not necessarily, this isn't stuff that you would do for praise and worship like lyrically on a Sunday morning. This is stuff we're singing about things that we're going through in real time, or things that we went through, or things that are going on right now in the world, and our response to it as believers. That's where we're at lyrically.
And I applaud you for that because that has been the thing that I've told people forever. I said if the preacher's not stepping on my toes, then what's the point?
Yeah. Right.
He's dealing with the everyday issues I'm going through in life. Yeah, it's great to hear about all these apostles and prophets and all this, but how does their story talk about me? What did they go through?
How do we relate to that, right?
Right. It's like, I was watching something from the comedian Mickey Bell. You ever heard of him? Christian comedian. He was comparing a Christian artist that had fallen away to David. And people were giving him grief about it. He's like, they're like, there's no comparison because David was asked for forgiveness. Well, nobody knows what this other artist asked. They didn't.
Right.
They don't know what they're going through to this day.
Right.
And I'm like, huh? David committed adultery. He murdered a man. He had somebody murdered. This person sins no greater than that. Why are you not seeing that? Every sin is created equal.
Right.
It just blew my mind how many people were giving him all kinds of grief about it. And I'm sitting there applauding him. I'm like, you're right. We've all, going back to Christian artists that I listen to growing up, Vengeance Rising, lead singer turned into a Satanist after he released some of the best biblical metal of the time. And people were like, gave up on him because he turned Satanist. I'm like, well, his music when he was a Christian edified you, did it not?
Right.
You know, just same thing with David. Some of his best songs were written after he had done his sin.
Oh, absolutely. There's something to be said in regards to David is the authenticity that come from him. You know, that's the thing I think I love about Psalms and David personally. I mean, for me personally, is that he had a real relationship with God. And what I mean by that, like when things were going good, he praised him, but when things were going bad, he's like, why? You know, like he wasn't afraid to call God out and say, why is this happening? And be real before him and see. And I love that. And I think, and I'll be honest with you, from my own walk and after just going out into the world and being able to share with people like what God's done in my life and get real with people, and particularly people that don't necessarily believe or that would never set foot into a church. One of the things that I hear the most as far as complaints against the church and Christians is that there's a lack of authenticity. Like they don't believe it's real because they don't believe the person believes it's real because they don't see it in the person. And and what I think a lot of people mean by that is that there's this image a lot of Christians carry, and it's like everything's perfect. When the reality is not everything is perfect for any of us. And I think the sooner that we're real about it, like, yeah, I have great days God carries me through, but I also have bad days. And I've had bad things happen. And I still struggle with depression sometimes. I struggle with this, I struggle with that. Not all my problems have been cured because I'm a Christian.
Right.
So when we act like everything is perfect, it sets up new believers and it sends a message to non-believers that there's this image that's impossible to uphold.
Well, that's what I was trying to explain to somebody a while back is they said, when you pray, how do you talk to God? I said, I talk to God like I'm having a conversation right now.
Right, that's it.
You know, there's no big $50 words there. You know, if I'm in a bad mood, I let God know, hey God, I'm not feeling it today. Can you help me just have a peace of mind? Something's that simple. Can you give me a peace of mind today? I'm having a bad day. It's causing me to go off on this person. I'm sorry for that. Can you help me calm down? Simple as that. That's all you need.
Right.
You know, and be real about it. Exactly. Be real about it. Be authentic to God. You know, who you should be authentic to anyways. He knows who you are already.
Yeah. And I found that when we're authentic, not just with each other, but when we're authentic about it to people who don't believe, their ear to us opens up.
Exactly. Yep.
It's incredible. Like because there's a humility in it, a genuine humility in saying, you know what, I'm struggling. I struggle too. You know, we're in the same place. We're on the same level. It's just creating just an impossible, unrealistic expectation of what it means to be a believer and pretend that you're perfect. Usually those are the people that crash and burn.
I would say your best testimony is your walk.
Yeah.
Don't have to talk. Just walk.
That's it, man. So I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So that's where we're at, and it's coming through in our music. You're going to hear it in the lyrics. You is a perfect example.
Exactly, and that's exactly my point right there. The whole gist of everything I do is, you see me right here. You see I have a problem just like you do, but I have a way to get through it, and here's how I do it. And if I can show you how that works, you get there.
Yeah. And it's amazing, like, how more receptive they'll be when we're honest about it.
Yeah. Honesty is the best policy of the old saying.
Come on, brother. It is too, man.
All right, guys. Well, we've been on the horn for an hour and 12 minutes, almost.
Oh my word, man!
Like I said, we can keep talking.
I
Well,
know,
guys,
bro.
I know we didn't get to all the discussion that I'd like to get to. We can try this again, part two, maybe sometime in the future as the
Okay.
summer gets here. Hopefully, I'll see you all at KCF. Are y'all going to go? If you don't get planned to play KCF, y'all plan to go anyways?
It depends on what we have, like what other opportunities pop up. We have so many things, so many irons in the fire right now, and it just depends. Hopefully, we get to play.
And I think
Yeah.
there's what planning next week or not next week, the week after for the announcements, the first part of March, I think.
Yeah, that's usually when they start
Yeah.
to
So,
let everybody know.
well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
It's awesome, dude. Thank you for
Thank
having us, brother.
No problem. I'm glad we got to connect. Like I said, we'll try to maybe do part two, maybe as the summer gets closer. I've got booked up actually right now, since I'm doing them every other week, I'm booked up pretty much into the first part of May, which is blows my mind. Blows my mind.
That's awesome, man.
So-
Congratulations, bro.
I appreciate that. Because like I said, I do two podcasts. I do a pro wrestling podcast on the weeks I don't do the Radio Oz podcast. So
Oh, nice, man.
yeah, I've got a wrestling company here locally that I work with the guys there and gals and interview them on the weeks I don't do Radio Oz. So, and I've got bands begging me. They say, we'd love to do a festival with wrestling and music together.
I
said,
it would
it's
go
like-
together, man.
I was like, you guys know, I'd have to have money to do that, and I don't play the lottery.
Right.
And I wouldn't even know where to begin. Hey, yeah, can you sponsor this weird concept of a festival that's got Christian musicians playing with pro wrestling matches in between between each artist or something?
Right.
I mean, I've got enough people I could do it. It's just financing.
Right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, nobody wants to work for free. And I've got bands from Nebraska who would come in and do it. I've got Kentucky, which is local. I've got bands from Ohio. So I'm like, I'd love to. That would be. I wanted people to do it for me for my 50th birthday, but nobody bit. So, anyways, gentlemen, pleasure. I'll keep sharing your music as I said with this new playlist I'm working on. Hopefully, I'll get more feedback. I've got not as much feedback as I'd hoped for this first part of the year, which there was a lot of new music coming out. It's just I love having anywhere from 40 to 50 new songs to share. So you got almost an hour almost 2 hours worth of music to listen to.
Wow.
So since I don't do the radio thing, that's my radio, so to speak. And everybody, and with Spotify, you got a lot of artists that are not putting their stuff up there because of money, which I completely understand. It's just one of the easier platforms to do everything, unfortunately. And I've been using it for since pretty much the beginning of Spotify. And my partner, wife, has she's an all digital person, and if you look behind me, you'll see that little bookcase right behind me there. There are thousands and thousands of CDs in that rack
Wow, man.
of every style of music you can think of.
That's awesome, man.
So, all right, gentlemen, I'll let you go back to your evening. Have a great one. Thank you again.
All right.
God
brother.
bless y'all. Be
Same to
safe,
you, bro.
Have a great night.
and we'll catch up
care.
soon. Thank you.
All right.
All right, peace out.